Hello everyone, my name is Question and welcome to my hobby blog. Today we are going to be doing a review for a very new movie called John Wick 4. Oh my fucking god. So I just got out of the movie. I went to go see it this morning at the theaters. It's a 3-hour movie and I was absolutely gobsmacked most of the runtime. Everything in the first three movies has been building to this. This movie is the culmination of everything before it, and I was not expecting that. There are very conclusive elements throughout this movie, and the director himself said that online. He talked about how sure there's conclusions, but we are getting a part 5, and I have no idea how it will happen. But before I go into all that, here is sort of the spoiler policy for this episode. I'm going to give my initial reactions, do a non-spoiler review, and then I'm going to go into spoilers, and I will give a warning ahead of time. There's a lot in this movie. It is 2 hours and 48 minutes, 49 minutes. And oh my god, this movie completely blew me away. I absolutely loved it. This is my favorite one yet. The fights, the cinematography was especially good in this one. I mean, it has been good all throughout the series, especially with part 3, but this one is just another level. I don't even know how they achieved some of the shots in this film. This is probably the most epic action movie that I've seen in a very long time outside of... I don't even want to compare it to Marvel because John Wick is just another level of that. It's mostly practical. There's a few parts where I felt like there was CGI, but the general story of this, and of course spoilers to the end of John Wick 3, so if you haven't seen that, I'm giving you time through me rambling to click off the video if you haven't seen that yet. But at the end of part 3, John Wick is shot and falls off a building, and Lawrence Fishburne rescues him. We start right from the beginning after that event. And the intro to this movie is amazing. We get an amazing horse race going on, a horse chase down, where John Wick is trying to find one of the crime lords in, I think, the Saharan desert. I don't know. He's in one of the deserts, and he's just going on a globe-trotting adventure in this movie. And that is what I love most. The location constantly changes. We start in New York City, of course, where the Continental is. And then we go to Japan, then Germany, then Belarus maybe, and then Paris. This movie goes all over the world, at least on the Northern Hemisphere. And everybody in this movie, we have an all-star cast throughout this movie. And of course we have Keanu Reeves, the main star. We also have Donnie Yen, who is in this movie playing the character of Kane, who is a blind assassin who is also in a retirement, along with John Wick, and he's kind of pulled back in. I'll talk a lot more about his character during the spoiler section. We also have Lawrence Fishburne, who takes a pretty backseat in this movie. And I wanted a little bit more with him, but I understand because Lawrence Fishburne is such a prominent character in the previous movies, and this one is such a high-level look at the Assassin's Guild. And I was absolutely in love with everything that was happening there. I love looking at power structures throughout societies and seeing how different ranks interact with each other. And this movie expands upon that even more. We had a character in the third movie called the Adjudicator who went to the Continental to basically shut it down because John Wick killed somebody in part 2, and broke the rules. So they sent an adjudicator for part 3. And in part 4, they have the top of the top guy. And he is played by Bill Skarsgård, who is absolutely fantastic in this one. He wasn't in any of the other movies. And he has such a charm in the movie. He is so smooth talking. He's a very beautiful man. This was the first movie, because I haven't seen many movies with him outside of It, because he plays Pennywise. So he doesn't look sexy at all or beautiful in that makeup. But in this movie, I saw it on an IMAX, okay, and my God, my eyes were opened to his beauty, and I think I have a crush on him. He is absolutely terrifying at times because he is such a smooth talker, and he is sort of the top guy of the entire Assassin's Guild industry, I guess. And I just, I really enjoyed it. I'm still kind of amped up from the showing, so I do apologize if I'm kind of bouncing from one thing to the other, but Bill Skarsgård was so good in this one, and I'm kind of repeating myself, but his costume design, I don't know who his wardrobe person was, but they knocked it out of the park. Every costume that he has looks absolutely beautiful. It is so well fitted and has really great colors. I mean, I'm not somebody who looks at costuming really ever, but Bill Skarsgård was rocking it the entire movie. And we also have Ian McShane, who returns as, oh my God, I can't remember his name, but he comes back, and he's the main guy of the Continental, which is the main assassin hub, no-kill zone for the Guild. He's in charge of that in New York City. I won't go into details, but he is definitely in the backseat throughout this movie. He appears here and there, but he is definitely the supporter of John Wick in this one, because he has also been deemed excommunicado along with John Wick, who was given that in the third movie. Maybe even end of the second movie. And then the entire third movie is about that, yeah. And Ian McShane, I just wanted a little bit more of, just like Lawrence Fishburne, but again, I get it. This movie is almost 3 hours long. We have things to do. And, oh my God. What a cast. And another new person who I really, really enjoyed was a man named Hiroyuki Sanada, who plays one of the Japanese crime lords. He's the guy, sort of the first crime lord that we see, who's new outside of America. And I really enjoyed seeing the Japanese assassin mafia guild. I still don't really know what to call them, but the Assassin's Guild in Japan was so wonderful to watch. All of them use samurai swords. They use the big, not compound bows, but the long bows. They use that. They have amazing armor on throughout the movie. But this guy, Hiroyuki Sanada, I recognize him. He's in hundreds of movies, and I looked him up because I was curious about him. And apparently he was part of the Sonny Chiba martial arts school back in the 70s and 80s. So, yeah, he was a very good fighter in this movie. He was so fucking good. All the fights in this movie comes without saying. It's John Wick. The fight scenes in this movie are fantastic and very epic. Just keeps your heart going. I went and saw this with my coworker, actually, and there were a couple times where somebody's face would be shot, or somebody would get an axe to the head, or like something very violent would happen that we were not expecting. We would look at each other and be like, oh my god, did that just happen? And I was absolutely in love with the fight scenes throughout this movie, especially when it involved a nightclub, because the music was just like synthwave, uh, turning into EDM, and then it had a lot of old Western guitar twanging going on, because this is a movie that is centered around a duel between Bill Skarsgård and John Wick. And I really love that blend of sort of genre music going on. You have the really heavy bass going on, the synthwave. You have EDM. You have the really great guitars from the old westerns going on. You have the Japanese stringed instruments. I don't know what they're called, but they're on the soundtrack when we're in Japan. Oh my god. Everything about this movie is just so well done. And I'm just surprised how good this was, because I love part 1, 2, and 3 quite a bit. But I did not feel as hyped leaving the theater or leaving the movie as I did today. It was just kept going. But I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Another great actor who was in this movie is Clancy Brown. He plays sort of the judge of the duel, and he is a very high-ranking person. He's introduced right off the bat with a Continental and with Bill Skarsgård, and I wish I knew him more. I very vaguely remember him from what's it called? Hunger Games. He's also in a couple other movies. I'm not sure, but I know he's in the Marvel superhero films, but he's in it. He's great. We also have a newcomer, a new actor who I don't really know anything about. When I looked him up, he was in Camp Rock and a couple other sort of TV shows and small movies. And his name is Shamir Anderson. He is somebody who has a very adorable Pepper. That's sort of his thing. And he is tasked by Bill Skarsgård to go kill John Wick in the meantime before the duel. And he and John Wick just keep hammering at each other throughout the entire movie. And I absolutely thought he was the best new character that we had in this movie. He was so good in it. He has this very jovial and sort of it is what it is attitude, because there are times in the movies where he's trying to kill John Wick and a bigger danger will come in, and he and John Wick will team up for a few minutes and fight them, and then go back to fighting each other. And I definitely recommend people to keep an eye out for him, because he just has this really great physicality throughout the movie, because John Wick and everyone, all the other actors in these movies, they've had the training and all that. And I know Shamir also had the training, but this is a new character in the series. Bill Skarsgård doesn't fight. We don't get fights outside of the beginning with Hiroyuki Sanada. And this guy of Shamir, I forgot his character's... Oh, his name is Nobody. So every time somebody's like, get him, he's like, oh, I'm Nobody. And it's fun. And I just really enjoyed he and Keanu Reeves together. They had such charisma with each other and such on-screen presence. So definitely keep your eye out for him in future movies. But that's really all I can talk about with no spoilers. If there's anything you want me to talk about that I did not address, please put it into the comments, because from here on out it's going to be all spoilers. I'm not going to really talk about anything else. So if you haven't seen the movie and you're dipping out because I'm going to spoilers, thank you so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day. Is everybody ready to talk about spoilers? And this is spoilers all the way to the end, including the post-credits scene, which is interesting. So hopefully I gave everyone enough time to leave. Right off the bat, the character played by Lance Reddick dies, and he's killed by Bill Skarsgård. And I note this because Lance Reddick just passed away last week, maybe a week and a half ago, because I'm not sure why, but I bring it up because when his character dies in this movie in the first 5-10 minutes, I was sort of sad. I mean, it was just really upsetting to watch Lance Reddick in this movie because he's not in it at all. And I wanted one more John Wick movie with Lance Reddick, and we didn't get that. So quite a bit of a shame, but I get it because Bill Skarsgård, he is punishing Ian McShane for going against the high table. And he's like, well, you are excommunicado and someone has to die. So he points the gun at Ian McShane, and then he kills Lance Reddick. And I guess that answers the what if question of how are they going to address it. Well, they already did. They killed his character off right off in the beginning, which I'm sure was decided when the script was written, but it was still sort of upsetting. But this movie is a globe-trotting adventure. We start right off the bat with him sort of recovering from falling off a building in the last movie. And then he's being hunted still by everybody because he's still excommunicado, and he's trying to reverse that and get out of the assassin's life. And the Continental is destroyed, along with all the staff and everybody. The entire hotel goes up in flames while Ian McShane watches with Bill Skarsgård. And so after that, John Wick is kind of like, well, what do? I need to reverse it. And somebody recommends that he goes and offers to do a duel with Bill Skarsgård, the top man of the entire assassin's life. He does mention his father, which we don't see in this movie. I'm not sure. But I think it's Ian McShane. He recommends John Wick to do the one-on-one duel. And after that, he's like, well, John Wick, you need to have a crime family, represent you in terms of inviting somebody to a duel or challenging someone to a duel. So John Wick has to go and get the goodwill of the Russian mafia, who has been a pretty constant force throughout this series. So again, this is another thing that has been building throughout four of these movies. And I was completely in love from this point till the end of the movie. I was really enjoying it in the beginning. I knew it was going to be good. I went in with high expectations for this movie, and they were shattered. But, so he goes to the Russian mafia, and he's like, hey, I need your help to challenge Bill Skarsgård. And they're like, hey, like, you left us, we're going to hang you. And they have him on the news and are sort of torturing him and abusing him. And he's just trying to tell them, like, I would do whatever you want me to do. please represent me for this duel. And so the lady who's in charge of the crime family, she's like, okay, go kill this German crime lord, who is the most ruthless, mean guy you will ever find. And he has this awesome gold teeth grill, where he sort of looks like the one villain from James Bond. I can't think of his name right now. I haven't seen the movies in a decade, even longer. But from there they go to Germany, and he and Shamia go there, nobody, and along with not Sunny Chiba, sorry, Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen shows up too, and he's a blind assassin who's now retired. Bill Skarsgård hires him and is like, kill John Wick, I'll pay whatever you want. And separately, he hires Nobody to go kill John Wick also, because he does not want to duel with John Wick, because John Wick is a badass. We all love him. And from there, they go, okay, so this is the section that I loved most. This was my favorite section of the movie, along with a later one, which I'll get into. But this German crime lord welcomes them all in this multi-story concrete nightclub that is just so well lit in terms of, or at least well shot in terms of the lights, because it reflects everybody's mood, and it's slowly changing and changing. And John Wick and Donnie Yen and Shamir all team up to bring down this German crime lord, because he cheated in a poker game. Because they show up to this nightclub and they're like, hey, we want to see the German crime lord. And all three of them are like, okay, so let's play poker, and whoever has the worst hand dies. And everybody gets really good hands, except for John Wick, because it's been manipulated before they even sat down. So he was going to lose no matter what. And so they all go into action. The doggo with Nobody is chomping people to bits, biting people in the dicks. It's awesome. The doggo is such a lovely creature in this movie. He just completely takes down the toughest baddies. And I love that, because we get a lot of dogs throughout this series, because of course the dog of John Wick was killed the first night or the day after the dog was brought in. But yeah, and from there, they all go into fighting with the German crime lord, and he's running through the house, or not the house, but the nightclub, and everyone's like, and it's like, I saw an IMAX with the heaviest speakers where I thought my phone was vibrating, because the speakers were so loud and was just, bam. It was awesome. I just really loved this section of the movie, where they're in Germany and Berlin. And from there, he punches out the guy's teeth, because the Russian woman is like, bring me proof that he has been killed. He brings the teeth, and she's like, okay. And so they brand the forearms with sort of the family zeal or insignia. And they're like, okay, you can now challenge Bill Skarsgård. And this is, I want to say, Act 2 now that we are in. This is a very long movie in terms of story, because there's no filler throughout this film. It just keeps going from beginning to end. And Act 2 is all about them getting ready to go to France and to Paris, because that's where the main family is. And the entire second act is just amazing. It's him hunting down people, trying to kill as many of the high table sort of creeps, to use a Batman term, because me and Coltflix just did a review on that, but on the Batman animated season 2 show. And oh my god, Act 3 is basically a race to the finish because John Wick shows up to Paris. He gets on a boat with Lawrence Fishburne and Ian McShane, and they talk about what would be on your gravestone. And John Wick says, a loving husband would be his. And because they're talking about the funeral for the concierge for Sharon, who is the concierge of the Continental, who is played by Lance Reddick. And they're talking about what Ian McShane put on his tombstone. And he said, a friend. That's who Sharon was. And this was a really kind of emotional part of the story. And I wonder how Keanu Reeves and Ian McShane and Lawrence Fishburne felt when, I guess, rewatching the movie after Lance Reddick dies, because this is such a emotional scene to watch. It was actually quite not draining to watch, but it was emotional to watch. I keep using that word. I didn't want to. But from there, they get John Wick gets off the boat, and he has to get to the center of Paris while he's being excommunicado, and Bill Skarsgård is hiring everybody to go after John Wick, and he keeps upping the sort of price that somebody will get if they kill John Wick. And I think in the beginning of the movie, it starts off as $3 or $4 million, and by the end of the movie, it has climbed to $40 million that Bill Skarsgård is offering to kill John Wick. And it's during this section that everything comes together for the action, because every hit feels so powerful. Every person who dies has so much impact because they are being flipped around. They go to that major landmark in Paris where it's the big clock tower and it's a big circle. And John Wick is drifting around in the circle and shooting people. And he just keeps going in circles as everybody in Paris just keeps driving in on motorcycles and cars and trucks. Like, it is an absolute, I don't even know what to call it. I almost said an orgy of violence. And it feels right to say. This movie is just so high octane from beginning to end, but especially this section. And there is a scary moment where the dog is thrown onto the car and is being punched out. And thank God for nobody, because they rescue the dog and he just flips and starts supporting John Wick. And they team up, and it's absolutely amazing. And Bill Skarsgård, on the way, while John Wick and nobody are moving to the center, Bill Skarsgård is like, okay, fine, I will offer you $40 million for you to get John Wick. And he's like, okay, and he immediately flips loyalty and starts going after John Wick. And they enter this sort of apartment building, an older one that has all the furniture covered and the windows are punched out. And they go in there, and this is the best sequence in action, I think, because it's being shot very as it's been throughout the entire series, and it does something new that just blew me away. And this is when my rating went from 4.5 to 5 stars for Letterboxd, because John Wick gets in there, and we see early in the movie we have a big gang of people within Paris who have dragon fire shotguns, and it's an automatic, so it's flames. People are being obliterated. And during the scene, John Wick gets a hold of one. And it goes from here, and then it slowly pans down so you are like a bird. We have bird's eye view, and it's this large kind of 3 or 4 room layout that you see. And you see him running around through all the different rooms, shooting people, diving, and it's all one shot. This is a 4-minute take that happens. And I was blown away by it. My jaw dropped while watching this because I'm watching this on IMAX. So this is something that I don't go to the IMAX often, okay? So seeing it on the big screen with a loud thumping bass as Keanu Reeves is just killing everybody, and you have Nobody and his dog chasing after people too, and they keep kind of running into Keanu Reeves and trying to get him, but bigger, deadlier people are coming, so they keep ganging up and fucking people up. And I loved this movie. Oh my god. It was from there on out, I was just bouncing my leg, smiling. I was just having a good day. It made my day a million times better. Not that it was bad or anything, but it just blew me away. And they do eventually get to the center of Paris to where Bill Skarsgård is. And they have the duel, and it's very epic. This feels like a Western movie, like with a John Wayne in it, where the entire movie has been building to this duel. And it ends up that Bill Skarsgård is able to substitute in somebody else to represent him. So he has Donnie Yen represent him, and then John Wick represents himself. And they have your very classic 1700s duel, where they have the flintlock pistol that is gold engraved and perfectly balanced. And oh my god, this was the coolest duel that I've seen on screen. There's so much history behind these characters, so much emotion, and I just really, really enjoyed it. And I guess I need to talk about who wins. So if you want... I mean, this is full spoilers up until the end. John Wick is shot fatally by Donnie Yen. But John Wick doesn't shoot Donnie Yen because first they do it at 30 yards, then 30 paces, 20 paces, and then 10 paces. And on pace 10, both of them are not doing well at all. They have big holes and blood going down all the clothes, and they look awful because the entire movie they've been fighting. And this is sort of just the tip over to just looking absolutely ragged. And Donnie Yen shoots John Wick in the lower belly, and there's a big blood spray, but John Wick doesn't shoot. And Bill Skarsgård is like, well, John Wick, you lost. And the adjudicator is like, or the, not adjudicator, but the judge is like, yeah, you won, Bill Skarsgård. And he's starting to kind of give the results and saying, hey, Donnie Yen, you and your daughter are free. You don't have to hide anymore. And Donnie Yen is like, okay, cool, my job's done. And Bill Skarsgård, he's like, oh, I want to kill John Wick. I want to shoot him in the head. So he walks up to Donnie Yen, accepts the gun from Donnie Yen, goes up to John Wick, and Ian McShane is like, hey, one quick comment. And Bill Skarsgård is like, yeah. And he's like, John Wick never shot. And Bill Skarsgård is looking like this and right at John Wick, and John Wick just blows his brains out, and John Wick is out. He is no longer involved in the Assassin's Guild, and so he walks away, sits down on the stairs, and seemingly dies. He falls down, and the movie ends. I have no fucking idea what this means for the fifth movie because there is a fifth movie going on. And I did mention that there is a post credit scene. And before I talk about that, though, after John Wick dies and falls over, we actually do get a funeral, sort of a funeral scene where we see Ian McShane and Lawrence Fishburne at John Wick's and his wife's grave, and you see Helen Wick, a good wife, and then John Wick, a good husband. And Ian McShane says, "I'll miss you, son." And and me and my coworker were having a bit of a misunderstanding or misinterpretation because my coworker thought that meant that Ian McShane is John Wick's father, his character is. To me, I felt that that was sort of a father son relationship, but that they weren't actually biologically related to each other. So if anybody has any insight into that, please let me know because I want to know. I need to know. But after that, they walk off and the credits start, and I was like, okay, immediately looked up, is there a post credit scene? I didn't look up what it was, but I asked if, and it said yes, there is. So we waited 3 or 4 minutes. It was actually a pretty quick credits sequence, and there is one, and it's very short. Donnie Yen is approaching with a big bouquet of flowers to his daughter while she performs because she's a violin player. And the daughter of Hiroyuki Sanada, because his character dies in the beginning, and his daughter is like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna swear vengeance on you, Donnie Yen." And they're not in the she's not in the movie for the rest of the one time, so I not forgot about her, but I kind of put her to the back burner. And ends up that in the post-credit sequence, she is approaching Donnie Yen, and Donnie Yen's blind, so he doesn't see her coming. She's in a dark hoodie and is incognito, and she's holding a knife in her hand, a switchblade, and she's getting ready to flip it open, and she flips it, and it cuts to black. I have no idea what John Wick 5 will be about if John Wick is dead. My prediction, I don't know when John Wick 5 will even come out. I guess we'll have another 3 or 4 year wait. But I would like to think that he is not dead. I am hoping he has a Batman or the Dark Knight Rises moment where at the end of that, Batman dies, but is actually living elsewhere. He's living in a totally different country, and he's happy. I hope that's the ending that John Wick has. I hope he didn't die. If he did die, I like that too. I need to get used to it because I do like that there's a conversation between Donnie Yen and John Wick kind of before the third act where they're talking about heaven and whether there is one. And John Wick is like, yeah, I don't believe it, but what if I'm wrong? I think that's even in the trailer. And I'm hoping that was sort of a, not foreshadowing, but sort of a, sort of a kind of tip off. It's not foreshadowing, but I like how they sort of planted these seeds throughout this movie about heaven and religion and all that. Because I would like to think that if he did die, although I guess a death would be the most merciful fate for John Wick. But I do really like the idea that he is back with his wife in heaven or whatever afterlife that is there. And it was a very lovely ending. I'm changing my mind on it. I do hope that he is dead, but not in a bad way. I mean, he accomplished what he has. He took down a lot of the high table. So yeah. there's really not much else to talk about. But if there are any questions, if you've seen the movie and you've made it this far, please let me know if you have any other questions and what they are. That is it for today. Thank you so much for watching.